Shalom, brothers and sisters. This is Brother Malak from the 12 tribes, children of Israel. Basically, I want to update you on some information. I've been in this truth for a little over 23 years, since 1995, since the old one West. I'm from the Connecticut camp. That's what it was called. Then we went to the house of David in December of 95 with Masha, along with other men. You still see the house of David, and you'll still see UPK, or ISUPK, being the name that was of One West. You still see them around today. This is basically, going into what I learned in the 23 years of being in this truth. I'm going to say this, that everything we was taught in that school is being taught today. There's a lot of breakaway groups from the old One West, and a lot of us have, changed certain things. We don't teach certain things anymore. We upgraded on a few things, revised a few things. All of us have come out of that school, but we all teach pretty much the same doctrine. So all this fighting over camps and stuff like that, when we all come out that same branch, the majority of us, and One West was the first congregation either, or the first group of Israelites. Let's get that straight. That was something that we were taught, but it's not true. One West came out of the Commandment Keepers. All right, the Commandment Keepers with Rabbi Wentworth Arthur Matthews. And Rabbi Wentworth Arthur Matthew was a non-messianic, meaning he didn't believe in the New Testament. He didn't follow the Messiah or anything like that. Followed more of Judaism, mixed with some Africanism. And before him was Josiah Ford in the city of New York. All right, Josiah Ford was another one that was into Africanism. He used to be, he created the red, black, and green and all that. And he was with Marcus Garvey, as a magician. All right. So there's a lot of stuff you may have been told about One West that may or may not be true. I'm here to confirm it, and you got elders older than me. And some of them will try to lie, but then they don't realize I got brothers who was around before One West. That's how old they are. Came before 69. They was with Bivens, they was with Matthews and all those men. So I get it from the source. You may think you heard a lot of stuff, but I get it from the source. Men that's as old as REI and Masha and all that. All right? I'm going to tell you something, man. One thing that we was taught that definitely incorrect is that we're not African. Let me say this, man, that the so-called Middle East, which you call today, is really Northeast Africa. You may say, well, Africa is named after Leo Scipio Africanus. That's not true. That wasn't even his real name. His name was Publius Scorpio. Then it got changed to Leo Scipio Africanus after the name of the continent. You go to the scriptures, it shows you Shemitic names. A Shemitic man by the name of Ephir. First it says Ophir, Ophir, and Ephir. Those are two Shemitic people. That's where the name comes from, the combination of both of them. When you look at those names in Hebrew, it has a name similar to Africa. All right, and it was the so-called Middle Eastern area. All right. One of the grandsons of Abraham name was Ephir. When you say it in Hebrew, it's Afar, which is where the name Africa comes from. All right, so the name Africa is not a Hamitic name. It's a Shemitic name. All right. And the Garden of Eden was actually what is called Jerusalem today. And the Jerusalem of the Bible is not the Jerusalem of today. When you go to Tel Arad, that's where civilization started. That's where the Garden of Eden started. That's where the four rivers was coming from, and they all met to what is called today Tel Arad. All right, you can still see the outline of the temple. Civilization started in what you call today as Jerusalem. All right, so miss me with that. Are we Hamitic? No. Hamitic people are different. Hamitic people are the people that we lived amongst, and we were given commandment not to follow them. Leviticus 18 and 18th and the 20th chapter gives us an example. All right, so it's not up here to be Afrocentric and Pan-Africanism and all that. But what I am is shedding some light, The brothers that went to Dimona around the same time One West started, those brothers call themselves African Hebrew Israelites. Not Hamitic Hebrew Israelites. They call themselves African Hebrew Israelites because that's what people understand. You tell our people they're not African, they're going to turn away from you. All right, you got to speak in their language. All right, am I a Hamite? Are we Hamites? No. There's Shemites and Hamites in the continent of Africa. All right. You know, back in the day when I used to study African history, and I still do it for Israelite purposes, but I did it in the world thinking I was from Ham and did not know about Shemitic people that was dark skinned or that was black, so-called black. I remember reading a book by the name of, shout out to the late Tonia Mitchell, my early African history teacher, before I studied it in school. He had a book saying in Africa there was two types of black Africans, Shemitic, or they like to say Semitic, and Hamitic. That went right over my head. Then I remember reading a book about the black people in the Bible, and they call them African people present in the Bible. All right, the word African, saying them African or saying you're African is not saying you're a Hamite. There's a lot of Israelites over there in Africa. All right, the so-called Niger Congo tribe groups and the Bantu. You get those groups and you break them down of who's of those two groups, major groups. Those are the Israelites in the continent of Africa, and the slaves came out of those regions. We didn't just come out of West Africa; we came out of Central Africa too. Believe it or not, the first slaves that came to America was from Angola. That's not West Africa. The 1619 slaves, that was 20-something slaves. They didn't give the exact number, but it's in the 20s. They was from Angola. All right, Angola, not West Africa. And the first place to grab slaves from in the slave trade was Zaire. It did not happen in 1619. All right, it happened in the 1400s. The mid 1400s is when the slaves first started getting gathered. All right, they came from Europe and they came from Africa. All right, because the Israelites fled into Africa during 70 AD, running from the Romans, and then some Israelites ran into the Roman Empire or got carried into the Roman Empire as slaves. All right, so the same time Israelites was in Africa, they was also in Europe. You know, one thing at One West, we focused on Europe a lot. A lot of Israelites that ruled Europe. We didn't really focus on Africa, because if we did, we wouldn't be running around teaching that everybody come out of Africa is a Hamite. All right, if they're Hamites, we Hamites, because they're the same tribes in Africa that came in slavery. The Ashanti went into captivity in the West Indies. A lot of Jamaicans, a lot of West Indies come out of descent of the Ashanti. The word Ashan is in the Bible. All right, the Ashanti come from the Ashan. All right, that's a city in Judah. All right. Secondly, you got the Igbos. A lot of descendants of a lot of black Americans come out of the descent of the Igbo, and some of them come out of the Yoruba. You had the Mandinka, like they call the word Mandingo. Mandinka is an actual tribe in Africa, in West Africa. All right. So miss me with all that foolishness. All right. Some of our Israelites are waking up. We need to stop running around saying that. Oh, I'm not African. I'm not a stinking African. No. You're not a Hamite. Keep it biblically. Keep it in the Bible. All right? Like I said, it was 1859 to 1869 when the so-called white man and the Arabs separated Northeast Africa, cut it off the continent. It took them 10 years to do it. They built the Suez Canal to separate Northeast Africa and call it the Middle East. We need to stop using European terms, okay? Because the white man says the Middle East is not Africa, we running around and say it's not Africa. All right? That's not scriptural. All right? Canaan is the son of Ham. Egypt was called what? The land of Ham, right? Where's Canaan? Canaan is a son of Ham. That means that also was a son of Ham. Part of the land of Ham. The so-called Middle East had Hamites there before the Arabs got there. All right, yeah, later on we renamed places and so forth and so on, but the so-called Middle East was always would have been Northeast Africa. Back then it wasn't called that, but if you want to be technical, you want to say the word Africa, today the Northeast Africa is the so-called Middle East. All right, brothers are saying that, oh, they can't be Israelites because they still follow customs and they didn't get enslaved. They did get enslaved over there. And just because they follow Israelite customs don't mean they got the truth. That don't mean they repented. they still follow Hamite customs. They still follow voodoo and all this other foolishness. All right? Just like our people over here, we got people over here who follow Israelite customs. They had slaves that follow Israelite customs. But they still was lost. They still was lost. Knowing you Israel does not guarantee you a ticket to the kingdom of heaven. All right? You have to repent in the Messiah's name. All right? Be baptized in the Messiah's name. All right? The name of the Messiah, in the name of the Father and the Holy Spirit. All right? In order to make it to the kingdom. And we have to keep the Most High's commandments through his son. All right? That's all to it. Knowing you Israel is not going to save you. All throughout slavery, we had slaves that knew they were Israel. That never changed. All right? The truth of the Messiah is what changed. That's something we wasn't taught. All right? You still lost if you don't have the Messiah. All right? Nat Turner knew he was an Israelite. Yeah, men knew they were Israelites in the 1800s. That didn't make them be, righteous. These men still followed Judaism, followed Africanism. All right? Followed churchianity. They mixed that with knowing they Israel. You can know you're Israel and be breaking the Most High's commandments. You're not going to be saved out of here. All right? So, are we to run around saying we're Africans? No. Are we to run around and say that, obviously we're not Hamites, but at the same time, let it be known that Israel and the Middle East is located in what's known as Northeast Africa. It was just separated a little bit over 100 years ago. If you went back to 1859 and past that point and below that point, it would have been Africa. All right? It definitely would have been Africa. All right, so let's not use this modern term that the European uses. All right, the European says the Middle East. There's no such thing as the Middle East. And it's not part of Asia, all right? Let me tell you something about the so-called Middle East. The same mineral resources that grow in Asia, that grow in Africa, it grows in the so-called Middle East. All right? The gold, the silver, the coal, the diamonds, the same animals, all of that grows in Africa also grows in the Middle East. Why is that? Because it's the same land. If you try to say Asia is connected too, Asia don't have the same mineral resources. Asia and Europe is connected. All right? They don't have damn near no resources over there. All right? Like I said, the lion is in Africa and the lion's in the Middle East. The same birds, the same mineral resources like gold and silver. Like I said again, it's the same land. It was separated by the European and also by the Arab, modern day Arab. All right, so let's get that straight. All right, I'm gonna continue saying this. All right, if they don't like it, then they can go somewhere with that. All right, I know the truth. All right. All right, and some brothers are waking up. Some brothers and sisters are waking up where they know that Israel is on the continent of Africa. You can see it on the map that is on the continent. There's a little dot next to Egypt. All right, then you see the so-called Middle East. The so-called Middle East and what you call Africa today, it used to be called connected. Look at it. Look at the map before the Suez Canal. It wasn't no Middle East. It was all connected. All right, brothers and sisters. This is Chief Priest Elimelech ben Yisrael from the 12 tribes children of Israel in New York and Connecticut. All right. You want to contact me? Inbox me on Facebook. All right, or inbox me on my YouTube. All right, Shalom.